Hey guys, welcome back to Woods Tree Farm. I'm Phil and Happy New Year to all of you. We have gotten through our Christmas season. We've put everything away for the most part, and now we're starting to think about next year, of course. But before we get into that, I wanted to give you a recap of how our season went. I know in previous years I have gone into a lot of detail about how we've done with our farm, how much money we made, how much profit there was, and all that kind of stuff. And as our business grows, I'm getting away from that a little bit, just because some of these things, I think, now that the business is a more meaningful size, are, a little bit private. And as much as I can share that'll be helpful for you guys if you're looking at starting a Christmas tree farm, or if you're already in the business and you're looking to expand on some of the things that you're doing, all of the idea sharing that I put in my videos is for you guys so that you can improve your businesses and learn from what we're doing. So the specifics of exactly what we did, I think, are less and less important. I know many of you are curious and would like to know, but like I said, I'm getting away from that. So there's a couple of things that I want to share with you, including our top selling products. But before I get into that, I want to talk a little bit about what I think really went well this year, and that was the sales of non-tree products. So I took a look back at last year versus this year, and I looked at our tree sales and then all of the stuff that was not trees that we sold. So wreaths and decorations and s'mores and candles and all the other products that we have for sale. And I'm going to give you some details about what sold the best, but basically, I broke down what we did last year and what we did this year, and the number just kind of blew my mind, and I don't know what to attribute it to other than we had the sales building this year. Last year everything was intense, and this year we had the building, so it looked like a real shop, and I think people just spent more money this year. I think our product selection was very similar to the previous year, slightly better, but very, very, very similar, and I don't think the product selection by itself is what made the difference this year. So when I broke down our tree sales number versus our non-tree sales number, last year it worked out on a per tree basis that people spent about $24 per tree on non-tree items, which that by itself I think is fantastic. If I looked at that last year and I knew that's what the number was, I would have been completely satisfied with that, and I would have just said, hey, that's the benchmark, let's shoot for that every year, because that's great. I mean, we see a lot of people come and go with just a tree, and I would have guessed that that number would have been significantly lower when we looked at the non-tree items on a per tree basis. By comparison, in 2023, the non-tree sales worked out to be over $29 per tree. So people spent considerably more, about 20% more, which is significant. So anyway, I like I said, don't know what to attribute that to, other than the biggest difference was we had the sales building this year, and aside from that, I don't know, product selection maybe a little bit. So because I use Square for our point of sale, and I used it last year, I can easily go in and compare year-over-year numbers, and I can look at it on a per item basis, and I can look at it on a category basis, to the extent that we track things by categories. And that kind of goes into how you set up your point of sale. It's totally worth it in the beginning to put more time and energy and thought into how you set everything up, because being able to run reports later is extremely valuable. So as far as the tree sales went this year, we did do a few more trees this year than we had done last year, but not a lot, less than 10% more. So last year we did about 380 trees. This year we did just under 400. So, it was marginally more. And the trees themselves were a little bit more expensive this year. So our year-over-year revenue as a result of tree sales was higher this year, both because there were more trees and they were a little bit more expensive. So if I look at the categories that had the highest gross revenue, this year the highest gross revenue by far came from a category that we just called our own handmade items, which actually it wasn't all handmade things, but it included things that we had branded our own merchandise. So the largest grossing category by far was our own branded merchandise, or merchandise that we made ourselves. And that actually does not include wreaths, because in our point of sale I had a separate wreath category. Alright, so I'm going to go down the list here real quick of the top grossing items under our own house-made category here. And the highest item was actually our Smores Kits. I shared this last year, and I think this is what, our third year doing the actual Smores Kits. These have done really well for us. We started out our first year, was it our first 2 years? I don't remember, just giving away marshmallows for free. And then the COVID year came, and everybody was kind of like, you don't want to have any shared surfaces, shared items, whatever. So we got away from having just kind of like this community free marshmallow area, and we pre-packaged s'mores in their entirety with, you know, graham crackers and chocolate marshmallow and everything, and sold them for, it started out as like $3.50, and then we went to $4. This year we went to $4.75. I picked $4.75 because with our Virginia tax, it rounds right up to an even $5. But anyway, we sold a silly amount of s'mores again this year, like we did last year, over $650 worth of s'mores. So I really can't complain about that. The next biggest thing, which was very close, over $600 worth of Woods Tree Farm ornaments. And we have done these wood slice ornaments now for a couple years. I think many customers have come to expect them, and we try to introduce at least 1 or 2 new designs every year. And there's a couple videos out there. I will put a link in the video in this video's description if you want to go out and check some of those out. But Ted Schrader Tree Farm in Michigan has put together several videos on how you can do some of these. We're not that creative, we're not that artsy, but these designs are pretty easy to do. So we set up a little assembly line, and we just go through, in August, September, October, and put together a whole bunch of these ornaments. And like I said, they've done really well for us. The next highest category for our own branded merch is Soy Candles. We partnered with a local candle person, and we put together a couple candles. Actually, we just put together one, but we gave it 2 names, and we were being a little silly with it. So one was called Jingle Smells, one was called Classic Christmas. They're actually the same scent, but we were just playing with the name a little bit. And I was curious to see if one would sell better than the other. There was no winner. We sold out of both of them. So we could have used a lot more candles, but we just kind of, let them sell out. Next year we know we'll order some more. They did really well for us. We had a bunch of other smaller handmade items. Now on a per item basis or on a category basis, these don't really show up, but we did sell through almost everything that we made. So we made these small little 4x4 packages. I think I made 5 sets of those. 2 of those sold. We made little tree cutouts. We made some little tabletop trees. Trying to look and see what else is in here. My kids packaged up reindeer food. We always sell a bunch of those. So anyway, there's a lot of little things that we sold. I'm going to look to make a lot more handmade items for next year because they did really well for us. Next up are our handmade wreaths. They've always done well. We actually did about the same number of wreaths this year as we did last year, which to a certain extent is a little disappointing. I thought we were going to sell more. I thought, I thought having more trees available and having more customers through here would have helped us sell a little bit more. But like I said, it was the same as last year, roughly within 1 or 2 units. So really can't complain. It's a good money maker. And then we also did expand this year on our wreath classes, which kind of falls outside of our normal sales time. We do that off hours, usually on a weeknight, and we did 5 classes this year. They all, maybe one of them wasn't completely full, but otherwise all of them sold out. So those are good little money makers. We had several local vendors with their items for sale in our shop, and we did this last year for the first time, and we thought it worked out pretty well. So it just helps us kind of fill out the shop, have a larger variety of product, and really there's no investment in it at all for us. So we did have to buy some tables and some shelving and some other stuff in order to accommodate their stuff, but really we didn't have to buy any of the product up front. It's all here on consignment, and whatever doesn't sell we're able to return to the vendor at the end of the season. So like I said, it works out really well for us. We do it at a lower margin. We do it on a 70-30 split, so it's a little bit less than your standard retail margin. But like I said, we didn't have to purchase any of that stuff up front like we do all the other stuff that's for sale, and we didn't really have to put any energy into putting it out there like we do with handmade stuff that we make. So it works out well. But I wanted to share with you kind of the types of items that did well for us, and the top grossing vendor for us was actually our Soy Candle vendor. The same vendor that made us our branded candles had a lot of different of her own candles available, and they did really well. I think when we returned her product back to her, there was maybe 4 or 5 candles left. I don't remember how many dozens there were to start with, but it was quite a few, and total sales for her stuff, I'm looking at the report here, was almost $500 worth of candles. So, you know, easy little money maker for us. And, you know, in hindsight, if we had more of our branded candle, then we would have sold more than that, and it probably would have taken off her number a little bit. But, you know, all in all, it's very, very worthwhile, and we're going to hopefully have her back again in the future. There were other handmade items. So, for example, we had someone who made some crocheted baby items and blankets and things like that. They had a couple little stuffed animals, and that sold well. You know, when you get into some of the crocheted blankets, it's a much higher ticket. You know, some of those blankets were $80 or $100, so it didn't take many of them to drive the number up, but it was over $450 worth of that type of product. And then other decorative stuff that was seasonal, that was festive, is what did best for us. So we had a vendor that had some wooden snowmen and some little wooden snowman decorations, and those did well. We had pet items have done well for us in the past, and you know, we sold dog bandanas and dog bow ties and things like that. There were different kinds of like tumblers, decorated insulated tumblers that did really well. So several $100s worth of decorated tumblers. These little pine cone gnomes were really interesting. People just bought these up. We actually went back to that vendor after our first weekend and said, if you can make more of those, I'm sure we can sell them. She brought us more, and yeah, we definitely sold a few more as a result of having that restocked inventory. So that was a fun little thing, and you know, something different than the ornaments that we make. So we were happy to have them. So if I go back and look at things on a per item basis, I'm just going to go quickly down the list on the top grossing items. For us, and again, I'm just looking at non-tree items here. The 12-inch wreaths with the bow, we did a bunch of those, almost $1,000 worth of those. The Woods Tree Farm coffee, which we've had for several years now, again, at the top of the list. We had, I told you already about S'mores and Ornaments. They're next on the list. The Woods Tree Farm candles next on the list after that. We had the tree stands. You know, I think our first year we didn't have any tree stands, and I learned our lesson on that. You've got to have a selection of tree stands. You're always going to have some first-time tree customers come out, and you're going to have some tree customers come out who know that the stand they have isn't that great, and they're going to see, you know, if you have a high-quality stand, they might pick one up. So we had plenty of tree stands go out the door. I think we brought in 3 cases of the Cinco brand stands. I have part of a case left. So those did really well. The tree watering funnels, again, near the top of the list here in the top 10. I have, I don't know, fewer than 10 of those left. We bought another case of those. So you can see here that the type of stuff that has done well for us is kind of what you would expect. It is, seasonal things. The decorative items, the handmade items are all the things that have done best. So if you guys have any ideas for things that'll do well on a tree farm or on a tree lot, of course, share those in the comments. But as far as the top grossing items, I shared those with you. There's another couple dozen items here on my list. I'm looking down at my phone as we do this. We just had dozens and dozens of different items, but because there were so many different items, they're not rising to the top of the, on the top grossing. But I wanted to share with you the things that have done well for us, because like I said, part of my journey here is sharing with you what works with us, sharing with you what doesn't work. And as far as like our shop goes, there wasn't really anything this year that I thought was a failure other than the weather. We had a couple rainy weekends, and I'm sure we could have done better if we didn't have such challenging weather. But people still showed up. We still pretty much moved almost all of our trees. I kind of expect at this point to have maybe up to 10% of inventory goes unsold, or it's damaged or whatever, so it can't be sold. We had well under that number this year, so I'm really happy with the result. Everything kind of worked out the way that we wanted it to work out. So where do we go from here? More trees, Those trees over my shoulder are going to be some of the first ones that will start harvesting next year. That's going to be a change for us, and I don't know what else we're going to dream up, think up here in the next 10 months before we open again for next season. So who knows? Stay tuned, stick around. Like I said, if you have anything to add to this list and the details I shared in this video, put it down below in the comments so other people can see that. And until next time, I hope you have a good one. I'll see you on the next video. Bye-bye.